Natsu and Gajeel versus Sting and Rogue, the epic conclusion to everyone's favorite type of arc. That would of course be the one and only Tournament Arc, and the hit show about the strength of friendship Fairy Tail, a show that I'm gonna finish the final 2 seasons eventually. A series with a lot of fights. And the fight that stood out to me from the rest that I have seen was new Dragon Slayers versus old Dragon Slayers. So with it being so many ever-loving years since I have seen this fight, or is it not as good as this groggy memory is telling me? Let's find out, shall we? And round start, Fairy Tail is off to the races. Now, something I forgot about Fairy Tail is that they suffer from Pokemon syndrome and must say their move names before attacking. So, gotta get used to that again. But Fairy Tail immediately takes the upper hand as Natsu, like a true Charizard, launches a successful wing attack on the Twin Dragons, making them enter drive mode, aka Super Saiyan. Damn, I forgot this was a thing too. So after filling each other out, it turns into a staring contest. Sting is the first one to spring into action, speed bagging Natsu as Rogue is Fisher Manning Gajeel. And thanks to the lovely commentating from the bystanders, we learn like a first grade classroom that Sting and Rogue's teamwork is near perfect, making them almost impossible to stop when they work together. Keep these words in mind as they play no part later in the fight. Speaking of teamwork, there's Natsu and Gajeel getting Perception Blitz together like a true team. Sting, beating the fire type out of Natsu, put a paralysis stigmata on Natsu, while Gajeel is dealing with the Edge Cringelord himself. But wait, what is this? Could it be that like a Mario Kart Pro, Gajeel was deploying the bagging strategy? And not just him, but also Natsu as well? Fairy Tail once again retakes the upper hand. So in order to regain his street cred, Sting charges up his magical power, blinding everyone in a 5-mile radius before launching his level 3. Natsu stands there like a Chad, blocking the level 3 with one hand, distressing Sting. See, this is why you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Rogue joins Sting in the manhandle department. Now the Twin Dragons have their backs against the wall and it's looking like defeat is imminent. But remember how I said Fairy Tail was a show about the power of friendship? Well, thanks to that power, Sting and Rogue get up as they have access to Dragon Drive that has ascended Dragon Drive. Almost like some sort of Dragon Drive 2, or better known as Dragon Force. Which is a big deal because no previous Dragon Slayers could access this power on their own accord. So as we all know, it's time for the good old-fashioned round 2. Sting decides that this is the perfect time to show off, so he decides to take on both Natsu and Gajeel at the same time, performing the ever so rare reverse jumping. And during that process of demonstrating his dominance, Sting ends up nuking the stage. During the free-falling escapades, Natsu and Gajeel combo together to anti-air Sting, launching him into the ground, but ooh, seems that light type is unaffected by steel types. Sting's response to their attack attempt, launch a ferocious level 1 super that leads into a full unscaled happy birthday combo. Now laid out like Peter Griffin, the new Dragon Slayers seem to have defeated their heroes and predecessors, showing how much better the 3rd gen Dragon Slayers are. But in the famous words of Lebronius James, job is not done, as the 2 2nd gen Dragon Slayers with only the minimum amount of damage on them stand up as if they weren't getting waxed. Wait, no, could it have been that they were doing an even better version of the legendary bagging strategy? As the Fairy Tail gang does a bit of bantering before Natsu shoves Gajeel in a minecart, sending him to the mines. As now Natsu is going to be the one reverse jumping. As they say, one reverse jumping deserves another. The twins tap back into the Dragonic Force for Natsu to inform them to put the Dragonic Force back in the bag, as what they got right now is not enough, which turns out to be pretty true, as Natsu by his lonesome is overpowering both of Sting and Rogue's Dragonic Force. Now, why can Natsu do this? Well, that power of friendship sure is a powerful bitch, but with great power comes great responsibility to beat Titan's opponent's ass. Along with the complimentary ass beating comes the endless glades from the onlookers, as the 2 3rd gen Dragon Slayers are getting the scales beaten off of them by Natsu Dragnelianson, who's Ubering them to the brink. The twin dragons perform fusion magic, fusing their power together, clearly preparing to launch their final attack. Natsu allows them to do this as there is zero fear in his heart as he has the power of friendship on his side. The twin dragons launch the unison attack at Natsu, who performs the
Dragon Slayer Secret Art! Flame Lotus! Exploding
destroying their attack, knocking both of them out, and clutching the fuck up for Fairy Tail, once again making them the best guild. That concludes Natsu and Gajeel versus Sting and Rogue. So now, does this fight compare to how well I remember it? Well, it's much worse than I remember, I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, it's fine, just not as gas as I remember it being. Not even close. Like, I remember when I first saw this fight, I watched it multiple times because I thought that it was that dope. Had me so excited for when Fairy Tail returned, and we know how that went. But upon rewatch all these years later, I think it's a fine fight, like a 5 to 6 out of 10. So it's mid, which is not a bad thing, which may be crazy to some of you where you believe it's either you have to love it or hate it. No middle ground, which is not how life works. You can just be fine with things. So what about this fight drops it down significantly from where I remember it? Well, first issue is it's one of those fucking intermission between each move where the characters or some other characters on the sideline has to interject every few seconds. Now you can have characters interject a few times because it can add a lot of things to the scene. But if you do it too many times like Fairy Tail does during this fight, it takes a lot away from the fight itself, making the fight feel almost secondary. I think the animation and choreography is fine. The music is good. The impact of attacks are not really that great because in multiple scenes, they choose to do the motion wallpaper attacks where it skips the actual impact of the attack and just goes straight into the follow through that has like background animations going on. Or does a PNG shot with the YouTuber effects surrounding the attack to be like, that attack was really strong, instead of actually showing us that attack was really strong. I don't like when these happens in fights. It just takes away so much from a fight as the attacks just end up feeling lackluster. Another thing is the fight is confusing, or I guess it would be more appropriate to say it has an identity crisis, because it doesn't feel like a dominant performance or a close match. It feels like a wrestling match where one side dominates part of the fight, then the other side would dominate part of the fight. There was no real point where either side was relatively close enough to each other that would lead to the most entertaining fight, or just a straight up ass beating through and through, which is also extremely entertaining. It's this weird mixture. Like, yes, even though Gajeel and Natsu were indeed sandbagging, their sandbagging just didn't feel right because they would bag, then unbag, then bag again, to then unbag once again. Like, if you're going to bag, you can only do it once. You can't light switch it because it removes all tension out of the fight, where if the character starts losing at any point in the fight after they've bagged multiple times, you won't believe that they're actually losing, removing all tension. That's why you can only do it once to get the most effect from it, in my opinion, just like everything else on my channel. Are there any other issues that I had while watching this fight? Not really. There was nothing else. It was mostly those things. Everything else about this fight ranges from fine to good. So before rewatching this, I deadass would have given this an 8 to 9 out of 10 because, to be fair, the me back then was on the Fairy Tail narcotic. So compared to every other Fairy Tail fight, this was far and above all of those. So I was gassed on it. But now, with it being some years since I've been off that narcotic, I can see that, yeah, no, this is a fine fight with no major flaws or issues, but also with no major strengths as well. Which is why, after rewatching Natsu and Gajeel versus Sting and Rogue, I can safely say that this is a fine fight.